Hi, my name is John, and this is my good buddy Andy, and you're listening to the Packers Blitz podcast. This podcast is done by two diehard Packer fans who survived the dark times of the 1980s Packers football and live to talk about it. This podcast is always dedicated to the greatest fans of all, Packer fans. So, one thing before we get to this, you might be a first-time listener, and thank you. Andy and I appreciate it. Andy and I, like I said, we're two old-time Packer fans who've been watching since really the 70s, since we've been little kids. And just to let you know, this podcast is done by two diehard Packer fans, like I said, who love Packer football. So if you love Packer football and learning about the Packers and you just want someone, not like a Skip Bayless or like, whoever at ESPN, kind of
Colin Cowherd.
Their own 2 cents.
Colin Cowherd.
Thank you so much. Scott Van Pout's okay. He's an okay guy at ESPN, but like any of those other guys, I can't think of the black gentleman right now. I'm drawing a blank on him, who just yells.
Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith. Thank you so much, buddy. You will not get that here. You will have Andy and I, who will be true to ourselves and what we truly. To get into yelling battles. We might get into like, what are you talking about kind of attitude, but we're good friends. And just to let you know, Andy, we desperately need football. We have about 16 days. How many days to 13 days now to training camp? Am I right? Am I right? Or am I wrong? I'm just making up numbers. Well,
exactly. We start on the 26th, so it's 16th. 16 days.
16 days.
I think the rookies report on the 21st, and the veterans report on the 25th. But the start is on the 26th.
And it can't come fast
First
enough.
Practice.
It cannot come fast enough. So, anyway, I hope you love this podcast, like I said, because Andy and I, this is our love, and we love doing this. It's our therapy. And we're going to need a lot of therapy in the upcoming season. So, Andy, why don't you tell me about your 4th of July? How did everything go, buddy?
Yeah, it went really, really good. And happy 4th of July, John. And hopefully you and your family had a happy one.
We did.
Did it go all right for you too, or?
Yeah, we just we hung out to see some family and hung out with some family and just had a nice little picnic and grilled some good old brats and burgers and had some beers, so it was all good.
Good. And I sincerely hope that all of our Packer fans out there did as well. God bless America. God bless the Green Bay Packers.
God bless
John,
the Packers.
We may need some divine intervention if we hope to make the playoffs this year. That's why I decided to bring that up. God bless America. God bless the Green Bay Packers, especially this year.
So, Andy, let's get into some Packer news, right? So this is how desperate I am for football, folks.
If you call it that.
I have news. I have news. I beat the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 57, 31-16. I did it, Andy, with a dominating defense and a running attack. My defense for the year finished number 1 in points allowed and turnovers. So look out, Joe Barry. I am coming for you, buddy. What do you got to that? Hi, Andy.
And that was the Packers defense that was number 1 for the year.
Number 1, buddy.
Wow,
number
you must have been a defensive guru there. I'm a defensive magic guru. Man, so to speak, but not Don Makowski. Yeah, and I have this in bold print, so I should be able to read it. Although I tend to joke about losing my eyesight and everything, but this is what it has come to without John's ability to watch and enjoy the NFL. Oh, I mean, when we're talking about,
I'm telling you,
yeah, I know you're trying to, pass the time, but geez, yeah, we need football back, don't we?
We need football back. All right. So, Andy, what do you got for us in Packer news?
Yeah, so before we talk about the Packers D line, I wanted to talk about a couple of minutes about a couple bits of news about the Green Bay Packers. And so first of all, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and Christopher Cohagen for reporting this important event in Packers franchise history. Starting Packers running back Aaron Jones won a celebrity cornhole tournament at the Summerfest Music Festival that takes place along Lake Michigan shoreline, along the shoreline in downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For our listeners that don't know anything about Summerfest, let's just say that it's a big deal. Started in 1968, Summerfest just celebrated its 55th year. I saw awesome performances this year from Dave Matthews Band and Imagine Dragons at the amphitheater there. So, John, have you made it to Summerfest in recent years?
No, it's overpriced.
Been to Summerfest lately?
Nope.
So just to let you know, John, about the overpriced part, on Saturday when I went to Imagine Dragons, I already had a ticket, so I got in for free. But you could get in free. They had free tickets available till about 3:00, and then you got a free ticket for next year, and you didn't even have to bring in food for the food pantry or do anything like that. So just letting you know that is something you could do and not really spend any money. So I figured I'd bring that up. So
I'm a cheap old man, you know that.
So anywho, back to Aaron Jones. Sorry, not Aaron Rodgers. We'll talk about him later. Aaron Jones advanced to the World Super Bowl IV Cornhole Championship in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So according to Wikipedia, bags, also known as sack toss or cornhole, is a lawn game popular in North America in which players or teams take turns throwing fabric beanbags at a raised, angled board with a hole in its far end. The goal of the game is to score points by either landing a bag on the board, which is 1 point, or putting the bag through the hole, which is 3 points. By the way, John kicked my butt about a month ago at his daughter Tessa's high school graduation party. So figured I'd mention that. Give a shout out to John. Congratulations on that. John kicked my butt, I think at least twice, right?
Yes.
Yep. So it's a good thing for Aaron Rodgers that the Packers, Aaron Jones, that I'm going to say this the whole time. It's a good thing for Aaron Jones that the Packers have a day off from training camp practices on Friday, August 4th. Now, Aaron will be free to win the Super Bowl. So the reason I'm probably saying Aaron Rodgers so much, John, is I'm missing him. And I might miss his play this year, but sorry. So yeah, Aaron Jones going to the Super Bowl. Jones and his partner, professional Yeti Irwin, beat former Chicago Bears defensive tackle Spice Adams and his pro partner David Morse in one semifinal. That was the only reason I brought it up. I was just going to skip that part, but I figured we might as well bring it up because we hate you, Chicago Bears. We hate you.
Yeah.
And then in the title match, topped WWE Hall of Famer Nikki Garcia and her pro partner, Eric Zachline. Aaron even wore his signature sombrero that has become his go-to fashion accessory on NFL game days. Jones and Irwin will compete against 7 other teams and vie for a championship. Hopefully, Aaron Jones will have a championship cornhole belt as a new fashion accessory to show off to a large crowd at family night practice August 5th at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So, John, we may not receive the Super Bowl, I think it's 58 trophy on February 11th, 2000, 24 in Las Vegas. But we could get a Super Bowl 4 trophy on August 4th instead. And that's 2 straight weeks of Aaron Jones news, by the way. First with the tattoo, and now cornhole. That guy really knows how to live. And so what do you think, John? Is it time for a tat, ready to kick my ass again in cornhole?
Yeah, man. I'm going to get my cornhole tat, and I'm going to kick your butt again.
I think really you talked about, John, getting a Packers tat, getting a big G.
Yes, I have.
On one of
many
the
times.
Shoulders.
Many times. And it's not that I'm It's not that I'm wimpy not to get it. It's just I'm like, I don't know. I see people with tattoos and they keep telling me, get recolored, and I was like, man, crap. Guess it's me laziness. Just really quick. I don't know if you know this, but Dillion wrote a book called Quadzilla. It's a children's book, and he just came out with that, and it looks pretty good for the kids. And he's going to be doing like a signing in Green Bay and everything like that, but it's called Quadzilla, about a dinosaur who's a kid or something. I don't know. It's a children's book, but I'll probably get it for my niece, my grandniece. That's just really quick news.
And that's called Quadzilla. Is that because of his quads being so large?
Correct.
Was that the name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's kind of his nickname anyway that somebody gave him.
Yes.
Yep.
When we talk about the offense, when we get to the offense, just really quick, he's got to step it up. That's one guy that's got to step it up this year.
My family and I in Boston Harbor went on Quadzilla, which was a really large speedboat that went out in the marina, basically where the Boston Tea Party was. And so that just reminds me of that. So I'm glad you brought that up. And if anybody goes to Boston, make sure you check out Quadzilla. Okay, so our second bit of news that happened Saturday. Just listen to this, John. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Here is a quote from former Packer wide receiver, kick and punt returner Amari Rodgers, who is now with the Houston Texans. Amari got 100% real on his brutal Packers exit on Saturday. And this is some of the things that he said, little excerpts of what he had said, or said on Saturday. It's part of the league. It doesn't work out somewhere. Everything is not gonna to be peaches and cream. Get the bad taste out of my mouth that I have with Green Bay. Yeah, John, get the bad taste out of my mouth that I have with Green Bay. So do you have any response to Amari Rodgers getting real?
With Amari Rodgers getting real, one of the things, again, I'm going to do the baby cry again. Come on. You had every chance to make it, and then you blew it, okay? You fumbled so many times. People were wanting to kick you out. And yet, Rich Bisaccia said, no, let's keep him in. Let's give him a chance. And then after a while, you're like, what are you doing? And he couldn't even make it into like the third string receivers. They put guys like, Watson, obviously he would play, but, he couldn't even get in, past any of the other guys. The 7th round pick from Nebraska, Toure, whatever his name was, he beat him out. So, like, come on, man, what are we doing? Anyway, just a big baby. That's my opinion. So,
yeah, just kind of whining. I mean, he should be thanking the Packers for helping him fulfill probably one of his lifelong dreams to play in the NFL. We drafted him in the 3rd round in the 2021 draft. He was the 85th selection. So he's not some chump either. He's supposed to be a really good player. Was a great player in college, but not so much in the NFL. So, and I think you're being a little bit too kind. He sucked. Like, he really sucked. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And he didn't make plays, fumbleitis, fumble Ruski all the time, and you can't do that in the NFL and play
No.
if you're going to be doing that. So I wish him well with the Texans.
Yeah.
I hope he turns his career around there. But he really blew it. And you're right, John. He had every chance, just like you said.
Every
He had every
opportunity.
chance, and he blew it. But he better remember who drafted him and remember who was paying his salary for those 1, 2, 3, well, actually 2 seasons. I mean, that's ridiculous.
It is.
For him to say that. And,
I know.
you know, so we'll just move on from there.
Yeah. So we're going to move on. Last week we said we would be talking about defensive line position groups, which this is going to be, unfortunately, not a very, how do you say, good subject. But Andy, why don't you take it away and well, kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at as far as defensive line and yeah, go from there.
Yeah, we'll try not to make this too boring, tonight. Packer fans and everything, but there's 19 of them. So the interior defensive linemen, the nose tackles on the roster, I'll list those off right now. We've got Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, and Jason Lawan. We also have TJ Slayton, Jonathan Ford, Chris Slayton. And then we also have Devontae Wyatt, Colby Wooden, and Antonio Moultrie. And those are the interior defensive linemen. And for some reason, John, I know that you can see this and the fans out there can't, but for some reason in an article that I read, they had them separated into those groups that they were almost competing. There were 3 separate groups of defensive tackles that were competing against one another. So there are actually 3 sections for whatever reason. Wow. So I'm not sure why they were dividing them up, but they did. Probably because there's so many of them. Then we'll kind of in a minute go back through and let everybody know who I think or who we think's gonna make the roster. But so the edge rushers, outside linebackers, defensive ends, whatever you want to call them on the roster. I was having problems. I mean, who's what? We've got Rashan Gary, Kingsley Enigbare, Lucas Van Ness, Brenton Cox, Keyshawn Banks, Preston Smith, Justin Hollins, Ladarius Hamilton, Jonathan Garvin, and this is going to be brutal. Kenneth Odemegwu. I don't even know if that's close. John. So John, do you have any take on the 19 defensive linemen that the Packers currently have on our roster? They have on their roster.
Yeah, it's a lot like a bologna sandwich. It's not bad, but it's not the greatest either. I mean, Clark is my guy. On defensive line, I think he to me, I hope Brooks. I mean, Carl Brooks, that we drafted. To me, he is. Oh man, I hope
He's your guy. He's your guy.
He's my guy. I just something about him. The other guys are just guys, so and we'll talk about locks here in a little bit, but there's not really a lot to get excited about, and I hope I'm wrong. So, but that's what I just feel. No, I'll let you take
You're
it from
absolutely
there.
right. To be brutally honest, John, I think this is one of our weakest units. Only 9 or 10 of these defensive linemen will be on the roster by the time it's all said and done. And then, there's going to be, 9 or 10, and one of them or 2 of them is probably going to have to be a good special teams guy as well. So, so some of the locks, you're looking at Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, because we just drafted him and he's got a lot of promise. He's a lock. maybe not
Yes.
to the extreme that Kenny Clark is. So this is our Packers Blitz locks.
Packer
TJ
Blitz lock.
Slayton. I would say he's got, some experience. He looked pretty good. He was drafted a few years ago, I believe. He's a lock. Devontae Wyatt, we drafted him in the first round last year. He's a lock. They're not going to release him.
No.
Colby Wooden, we just drafted him. He's a lock. Rashan Gary, of course, who we'll talk about. We'll talk about his contract in just a little bit. Total lock. Even with his knee injury, he's still a lock. Kingsley Enagbare is a lock. Lucas Van Ness, our first round pick this year, of course, is a lock. Preston Smith should be a lock. He had a pretty good season last year in the last few years. He's a starter. He should be a lock. Now the other two I was thinking about that would be Justin Hollins, possibly Jonathan Garvin, because they're really good special teams players. But then you're looking at us keeping 11. So I would guess one of those two is going to probably be the odd man out.
Right.
But you need some really good special teams players. So that's why I mentioned those two. But, again, all these guys are just really okay. Kenny Clark and Preston Smith may be the exceptions to this. But those guys are leaders. We are hoping that they're going to step up and play like all pros or pro bowlers. And then of course we only really have one true impact player in that group, and that's Rashan Gary. And that's why I wanted to focus a little bit about his contract situation coming up and talk about that right now. So any other thoughts about the group that we have, or do you want me to move on to that?
No,
John?
you said it all. So if you want to move on to Rashan Gary's contract, because that is going to be a big one.
Outside of cornerback Jari Alexander, there is no player that is more important than outside linebacker Rashan Gary to the Green Bay Packers defense. And in his 4 seasons, he has emerged as one of the NFL's elite players. Although Gary's surface level stats of 22 and a half total sacks and no 10 sack seasons aren't great. However, according to Pro Football Focus, PFF for short, Gary ranks second in the league, second in pass rushing productivity, which comes from sacks, hits, and hurries per pass rushing snap, and ranks 4th in pass rush win rate. He is scheduled to play under the 5th-year option of $10.9 million, and which is a prelude to what's certain to be a blockbuster contract extension. However, Rashan Gary is coming back from a torn ACL sustained at Detroit on November 6th. That injury could impact the negotiations between Russ Ball, the team's executive VP and director of football operations, and Ian Clark, Rashan's agent. If not for a leg injury, an extension might have been hammered out by now. The Packers could have locked up one of their premier players and gained immediate salary cap space, and Gary pocketing the $30 million Jari Alexander got in May 2022. I would guess, this is just me guessing now, that the Packers will take a conservative approach like usual. They will want to see Rashan Gary on the field sometime during training camp to see progress. However, the Packers can ill afford to let him get back on the field and put up massive stats like he did in the first 4 games of 2022 before he got injured. This is when he had 5 sacks and 16 quarterback pressures. 16.
Animal.
With that type of production, his contract is probably going to be in the 4-year, $100 million range
Easily.
and possibly even higher. That's why I expect the Packers to sign him before the season starts to maybe get him for a little less.
Really? Yeah.
John, did you like all the howevers? Did you like all the howevers in that segment?
You are the
Be
however.
honest now.
I love the howevers.
So you don't think he's going to get the bag? You don't think he's going to get 4 years, $100 million, John?
So I'm looking at TJ Watt's contract. See, TJ Watt and him kind of what do we got here? So oh my gosh. Check this out. So 4-year, this is TJ Watt contract, 4-year, $112 million with an extension and an $80 million guaranteed. Oh boy. What do you think of that, Andy? You think that's about right? Or you think that's too much for him?
That's a
$80 million.
I'm hoping we could get him somewhere in the 80 to maybe $100 million range. And that would be probably a bargain. He's probably in the top 5, John, pass rushers in the league right now.
Easily.
Okay.
And he's still young.
So
he's still what, mid-20s or something like that. He's still a young guy. So, and TJ Watt.
Yeah, well, he came out early from Michigan, so he was only a junior. So he's not more than 23, 24 years old.
Like I said,
we could look that up on our phone, but we've been doing that a lot lately on Packers Blitz episodes, so we don't want to do dead air here. But
no. So the thing I was going to say with Rashan about the injuries, because Rashan Gary, he's 25 years old. So
25? Okay.
25. So the thing I'm worried about is when TJ Watt is in there, I mean, he's the difference maker. I mean, it's unbelievable. But when he's not, it's Pittsburgh's kind of an ordinary defense. So that's what I'm worried about the Packers defense. You give him all that money, right? And really, the Steelers do a pretty good job. But still, the Steelers defense is not what it once was, obviously. And that's my problem with Rashan Gary. If we throw a 4-year, $110 million and give him a signing bonus of like 70, what are you going to do? You got Jair Alexander, and then you got him. And then everyone else on that team, you got to go, well, maybe we can't, someone goes forward and really starts to play well, you're kind of screwed, what to do with your salary cap. But that's just my opinion. Do I give him the money? Absolutely.
Yeah, well, up until he got hurt last year, he was in the talk for defensive player of the year. Now TJ Watt was and probably will be again defensive player of the year. So he definitely deserved the money he got. He's a true impact player. I forget what their record is with him versus without. They are a totally different team when he does not play. So that's TJ Watt, I mean, no, he's worth every penny. So and we could have drafted him, but we won't bring that up ever again, John. I think we brought that up in a previous episode.
We were not the whole king thing. Just a quick side note with Rashan Gary. The Packers are a little bit worried about him because he is like a rabid dog. Like he's coming in every day, doing his workout, doing his rehab, physical therapy, and then he's just out there. Like somebody said they saw him, like he can't really do contact drills, so he can just sit on the side and just kind of hit the heavy bag or whatever. And they saw him like sitting there hitting the bags and hitting the dummies and stuff, tackle dummies, and people were like, damn. He is scary. Like he was ripping these things apart and throwing around like they were rag dolls. And he just like, oh, the fuck out. He is pissed. And I'm like, that's a good thing. Now just don't blow out your knee again, because then your career is pretty much over. So, but just a little side note that he loves the Packers. He wants to come back and kick everyone's butt. So that's a good thing, right, Andy? I think it is.
Yeah, he seems motivated. He seems to be,
Very
he's a really
motivated.
hard worker anyway. And there's
Mhm.
there's been nothing but praise for him and his work ethic.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I think you're right. I thought I read an article where they actually said he was like a rabid dog out
Oh.
there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and hopefully he'll be a Packer for a long, long time.
Yes, I would
moving
love
forward.
that. Yeah, I would love that. So
We're
that's
going to
what
move
you-
on to our
Yes,
next
we're gonna
segment,
move
John.
on. Yes.
So on the last episode of Packers Blitz, I said that ESPN called out the Packers for robbing the NFL for 10 years. A recent ESPN article called Ranking the 50 Biggest Draft Steals of the Past Decade discussed just that. 4 former and current Packers landed on that list. They were tied for the most with 4 on the list. So the Packers have done a really, really good job finding those, diamonds in the rough, those gems in the draft. So they ranked them from 1 to 50, and ranked number 3 was wide receiver Devontae Adams, who was drafted number 53 in 2014. He has 769 career receptions for 9,637 yards.
Wow.
And 87 touchdowns in 9 seasons. Drafted number 53 in 2014. So they ranked him number 3. At number 11, they ranked left tackle David Bakhtiari, who we talked a little bit on the last podcast. Drafted number 109, if you can believe that, in 2013. Wow. He has 130 career starts, a 94.6% pass block win rate.
Jeez.
And a 77.7% run block rate in 10 seasons. Now, the part that floored me wasn't the 94.6 in pass blocking, because I knew he was awesome in that, but the 77.7% run block rate, winning that battle. I was surprised with that, because I thought that was kind of a weakness of his. And actually, that's pretty darn good. So they had him ranked. They had him ranked 11 on that list.
Interesting.
At number 36, who we talked about on last Blitz
podcast.
That was episode 27.
Check it out.
At number 36, right guard Elton Jenkins. Drafted number 44 in 2019. Elton Jenkins has 53 starts, a 93.4% pass block win rate, and a 74.9 run block win rate in 4 seasons. So a little bit below David, but holy cow, when you think about it, you've got Bakhtiari on the left-hand side. A lot of times they had Elton Jenkins on the left-hand side with him.
Yes.
Although they had him listed off as a right guard. I think he's more of a left guard. So
I think more of a left guard.
I mean, that basically means Rodgers' backside was being protected incredibly well. And that's partially why, Aaron had such good successes, because he had some time to throw.
Yeah, he had all day to throw.
Yeah.
You have all day
that's
to throw
just, that just, confirms it. So, but anyway, I didn't realize, Jenkins was so good run blocking as well. So that's pretty awesome. So he was ranked number 36 out of 50. At number 46, which I thought was interesting. Maybe not very interesting, but interesting. Center Corey Linsley, who was drafted number 161 in 2014. Corey has 129 starts, a 94.7% pass block win rate, and a 70% run block win rate in 9 seasons. So, it's nice. it's nice to see the Packers front office executives, coaches, and scouts getting the praise that they deserve. The Packers have had success since 2013, landing premier talent in the later rounds.
Yes.
According to ESPN, this is what ESPN said. Look around the league today, and many of the best players waited until at least day 2 of draft weekend to hear their names. The Packers are one of the best teams at finding exceptional talent in the later rounds of the NFL draft. However, the current Packers roster was ranked 23 out of 32 teams and dead last in the NFC North by ESPN.
No way. That's wrong.
By the way, that Entertainment and Sports Programming Network is not only one, is not the only one that thinks that. So there are some other ones that actually ranked them pretty low in the bottom third of the league. Yep.
Come on.
Hopefully they're all wrong about the roster. Then and only then can the Packers rebound from a disappointing 2022 and win the division. If not, the Packers could be looking at their first last place finish since 2005. That would mean that we have had, we'll have a really bad roster. But it's great that we haven't been at the bottom of the division since 2005.
Yeah,
that part's good.
Very good. Yeah, that is very good.
So any comment on ESPN? Do you have anything to say to ESPN?
Yeah,
and its viewpoints about the...
Come on. That's ridiculous. I mean, 23, no. I would say they're about 15. That's my opinion. I don't think they're 23, but it's typical ESPN, they kind of just overdo things. So anyway, that's my opinion. ESPN and me are not getting along very well lately. My viewpoint.
Yeah, but John, we were one of the top teams. There was only, I think, one other team, and I didn't pay the $9.99 to subscribe for ESPN Plus or whatever it was. I don't know who the other team was, but there were only a couple teams that had that many players ranked, and we were the top one at 4. Right. There was another team that had 4 as well. So that's just a testament to the Packers organization that they have a pretty good organization, and so winning organization. So hopefully that continues.
The problem we have is with the Packers is, number one, is the fact that their first round picks usually don't work out. So if your first round or second round pick doesn't work out, that's really kind of how your team goes in the years. Because first, second round picks are usually quarterbacks and defensive linemen or offensive linemen. And if they don't come in and make an immediate impact, it's, you're the 23rd out of 32 team roster, really. So we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting. I think, again, like with the whole Jordan Love thing, let's wait and see on that. I think people are looking at it and saying Jordan Love's going to have a crappy season, but I guess we'll have a lot of fun reporting.
There's other people that said he's not, so the jury's still out on that. And John, I think we have time for this last segment. You want to do it?
Sure, let's do it. Let's
do it. So John, Packers fans, Packer Blitz fans out there, last time on Packers Blitz, episode 27, I teased about an article that I read recently from Packers Wire, USA Today, and Zach Kruse. Very interesting. It really relates to what John and I just talked about with the Packers getting some of the great NFL draft steals. Here, let's talk about some individuals that made the Aaron Rodgers era a dominant one for the Packers offense. Why was it dominant? Well, between 2008 and 2022, 15 seasons, the Packers scored 6,365 points, which is the third most in the NFL. 750 55 touchdowns, which is also third most in the NFL, and averaged 5.71 yards per play, which was actually the fourth best. That's the one that surprised me a lot, John.
That is a little, that's
that we were
surprising.
fourth. Yeah, I thought we were in more middle of the pack, but that's awesome. Dominant is right. If we were ranked number 3,
absolutely,
that is dominant. Yeah. And so here are some of the most dominant seasons by a Packers player at each offensive position for the last 15 seasons. This is during the Aaron Rodgers era. So at quarterback, of course, Aaron Rodgers in 2011. So Zach Cruz, who did the article from USA Today and Packers Wire, ranked Aaron Rodgers' season of 2011 as his number 1 season. It was tough, though. So basically called him unstoppable. The Packers had a 14-1 record in his starts. He led the NFL in touchdown percentage, yards per attempt, and quarterback rating. He had 45 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. He averaged almost 310 yards per game. And he set an NFL record with a 122.5 passer rating. Woo!
Wow.
He had 10 games with at least 3 touchdowns and a passer rating over 100. Unstoppable, dominant by Aaron Rodgers in 2011.
By far.
Now, at the running back position, we had running back Aaron Jones in 2019.
By the way, really quick, Andy, to interrupt you just really quick, it's round draft pick.
Yeah, Aaron Jones.
Fourth round pick out of Utah. Yeah. So, just saying what we were just talking about.
So in 2019, Aaron Jones with his sombrero had 19 touchdowns. 19 touchdowns. Oh my gosh. 1,558 total yards on just 285 touches. He scored multiple TDs in 6 games, and in 2 playoff games, he scored 4 more times, which gave him 23 touchdowns in 18 total games.
Oh, man.
Aaron Jones in 2019.
Very nice. Very nice.
Then, of course, people can probably guess this one for wide receiver. That, of course, would be Davante Adams.
Not Adams.
In the Aaron Rodgers era, he was had the most dominant season in 2020. He caught 18 touchdown passes, which was most in the NFL.
Wow.
He led the NFL in receiving yards per game at 98.1 yards per game. 98.1, John, almost 100 yards per game. He caught a career high 77.2 of his targets and averaged a career best 9.2 yards per target. He had 11 games with a touchdown catch, 7 with 100 yards or more, and 5 with 10 or more catches. By the way, good old Jordy Nelson came in a close second, by the way, with his dominant season in 2014. Yeah. So they gave a shout out to Jordy, so we figured we would too. Yeah, awesome wide receiver. So I wasn't surprised they picked, of course, Davante Adams, but yeah, Jordy had a really good 2014 season as well. Then at the tight end position, they picked Robert Tonyan in 2020. John, we might have to debate about that one, but they did pick Robert Tonyan in 2020. They said he was very efficient. He caught 88.1% of his targets. Pretty darn good, huh? Averaged 9.9 yards per target and scored 11 touchdowns on just 59 targets that year. By the way, Your boy, your in the
Yay!
2011 season wasn't bad either. They gave a shout out to Jermichael Finley, but they chose Robert Tonyan in 2020, who unfortunately now is a Chicago Bear.
Go Bear.
Right. So continuing on. Continuing on with some of our top players, our top offensive players during the Rodgers era. At offensive tackle, of course, we are mentioning David Bakhtiari again. David had the highest graded pass blocking grade of any offensive lineman of the PFF era in 2017.
No.
The highest graded pass blocking grade ever in the PFF era by any offensive lineman. So now you know why they chose him in 2017, and that's why he got the bag right after that.
That's why he
gave up. He gave only 12 pressures and just 1 sack, and he committed just 2 penalties. I think that's more amazing than anything. He only committed 2 penalties the entire season. Man. So shout out to David. Awesome job. And then at guard, it was actually, I wasn't too surprised with this, but Josh Sitton.
Oh, sure.
Also a former Packer and a former Bear, unfortunately. In 2014, per Pro Football Focus, PFF, in 2013 and 2014, he was graded the highest pass blocking season from a guard in the site's history.
Wow.
Which is kind of amazing. He was a heck of a player, and I did not know that. And that was very, very interesting that they had mentioned that. So in both years, he was graded the highest pass blocker of any guard in the NFL. So that's pretty awesome. He was dominant in 2014 with consistent elite play. He allowed just 10 pressures and 0 sacks over 618 pass blocking snaps. That's pretty amazing from a guard.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. 0, and he gave up 0 sacks. Unbelievable. Wow. So great job, Josh. And then at center, let's say last released, and it brings up another player who we had just talked about, Corey Linsley in 2020. He gave up just 4 total pressures and excelled as a run blocker during a first-team All-Pro season. He allowed a pressure in just 3 of 13 games that he played in. Unfortunately, Linsley signed with the Chargers following the season, got the bag from them. So it would have been nice to keep him. But man, it just, that whole side of the line with Linsley, Elton Jenkins, and Bakhtiari. Holy cow. I mean, that must have been, Rodgers must have never felt like he was going to get pressured from that side at all. So, wow, it's pretty awesome. So,
wow.
So John, any thoughts on this list of great Packer seasons from the Rodgers era? Anybody that you might want to, add? But I think they're pretty much spot on with most of them.
Yeah, they're pretty much spot on with. Here's the thing. I'm a little bit depressed. Why didn't we win more Super Bowls? Right? Are you kidding me? What is going on? We have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL for a while. We had one of the best wide receivers, arguably, in the NFL. We had one of the elite running backs, and my
offensive line.
2011 with Aaron Rodgers. By the way, if you remember, we finished 15-1, and I know we've already brought this up in past episodes. We lost to the New York Giants. Eli Manning. We lost to freaking Eli Manning.
Yep.
At Lambeau.
But they did go on to win the Super Bowl that year, though. So there's a little bit of. I mean, they weren't they were a good team.
That's the only
they had a better defense. That's what it came down to. Their defense outplayed our offense that game, among us other things, and our defense stunk.
Yeah, let's stop getting depressed.
Oh, okay. Well, you should have
just shows you.
Should have brought. We could rant and vent, and I hate to say bitch about that game in particular in that season, that dominant season that we had when we were 15-1. We could have a whole episode just on that, but we're gonna move on.
We will. We'll move on. We'll move on. This funny thing I saw. I'm not big on Twitter, but I was just looking through it the other day, and this was hilarious. A Packer fan put up the fourth quarter score of the 2014 NFC Championship game, where we were up, I believe at that time, 16-7 with 5 minutes left. And underneath the caption
is this the one with Seattle?
Underneath that, yeah. So, and underneath the caption was, "How the hell did we lose this game?" Hey, okay, let's move on.
Yeah, we could have a whole episode on that game. Just that game. All the missteps, all the things that we should have did to win the game and make it to the Super Bowl.
Oh man.
Brutal.
Okay, so we will talk about that later in some episodes and stuff, depending how the season goes. But anyway, so we'll reach the end of the episode, and one thing I want to say thank you, Andy, for doing all this great research. I truly appreciate it. Just to let you know, again, like I said, we are going to be some fun things this season. You will see our faces a little bit more. If I can convince Andy, once he comes over here and I go over there to watch NFL Packer games, questions and talk about the game, because I think it's going to be really fun. 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you listen to our podcast, and also go to YouTube. There's podcasts on YouTube, so if you want to listen to us, you can listen on YouTube. We really appreciate it because, like I said, we love doing that, which it's kind of therapy for us as Packer fans. But other than that, Andy, why don't you take us out?
Yeah, John. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, it was a very interesting episode 28 of Packers Blitz. Aaron Jones might get a Super Bowl trophy. Yes, that's Super Bowl, not Super Bowl. The Packers have defensive line issues that hopefully have been solved with their current personnel group. The Packers robbed the NFL at least 4 times in the last decade. Their personnel people have done a good job finding draft steals and diamonds in the rough later in the draft. And lastly, there have been truly some fantastic individual seasons by offensive playmakers during the Aaron Rodgers era, especially the incomparable Aaron Rodgers back in 2011. What an awesome quarterback and season he had.
Unbelievable.
So next week on Packers Blitz, John and I will talk about the rest of the offensive skill positions. I think we still have to talk about quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. We are also looking forward to giving you a preview, getting everybody a preview of the Green Bay Packers NFL training camp that's coming up starting on the 26th of July with some more important news and some of the biggest storylines leading up to it. So I'm looking forward to it, John, and we'll talk with you next week, buddy.
Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.
Later, buddy.